it's Andy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK channel. Today's video is a song I'm going to say that Andy and Kirk probably do know, but we'll find out in a second. But if you do like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. Won't pause the video, and we'll share our thoughts and feelings at the end. Let's go check out today's video. There we go. So there we go. Wolverine Blues. Do you know the band?
Entombed.
Yeah. it's a pretty well-known track from that particular band. I don't remember when it came out. 93,
I think.
Something like that. And this is a throwback to another song that I came across on a cover mount CD from Metal Hammer or Terrorizer or something like that, and that was the standout track off of that particular CD I remember at the time. I don't know much else about Entombed apart from the fact that I have heard maybe one album, and whatever I can say is the guitar tone of Entombed, you always know it's Entombed. It's one of those ones that when someone starts playing an Entombed riff or something comes through before you've even got to like the main part of the riff, you're like, is that Entombed? That's such a distinctive guitar tone. Like we talk about Obituary and some of them, you always can pick out their guitar tone. But Andy, thoughts and feelings?
It's too early on a Sunday morning for my brain to compute. I thought, well, these obviously like Wolverine, and then it all from the 90s, and it took a few seconds for me to realise this is Wolverine Blues by Entombed, which, to be honest, for the record, is a song I've never actually heard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never heard it. I kind of went off Entombed after the Clandestine album. I mean, Left Hand Path was a groundbreaking album. Absolutely loved that. The incarnation of the band before that, is it Nihilist? Is that how you say it? That EP or that release was brilliant as well. Left Hand Path, excellent album. Clandestine, I don't think I like the vocalists they brought back on for that album. But then going forward in their career, they re-recruited LG Petrov, is that his name? Who sadly passed away recently as well. But what put me off again, even though the original vocalist came back into the band, just the sort of whole look of the band sort of changed at that time. I think the logo changed. They've got an album called Wolverine Blues. I thought that's not the same band that released the death metal classic Left Hand Path, so I'm not going to get into it. So I've not heard any Entombed after from that point on. I mean that was an enjoyable song, yeah, sort of almost from that era, from that sort of that style of that they released with Left Hand Path, sort of dirty, as you say, Dave, typical Entombed guitar tone. I was trying to listen to see if the song was actually about the Marvel character, but I couldn't distinguish whether it was. There's a mention about being pound for pound. I don't. I'm not a
No
Wolverine
idea.
aficionado, so I don't know if that's sort of something he, as part of his character. But yeah, very sort of simple, cheap video. The sound sounded cheap as well, but yeah, I might sort of listen to that album from Entombed at that time now after seeing that.
Kind of reminds me a bit like when we did Crowbar, like Broken Glass. It had a very similar vibe to that to me. Maybe that's why I liked Broken Glass when that came out as well on the cover mount CDs.
Yeah,
doing my 30-second skipping thing of the CDs like I used to do. Like, no. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I like the dirty riff of the Entombed one. Kurt, what do you think?
The transformation of Entombed from Left Hand Path and then the albums that followed, it's probably a bit like Carcass dropping the gore grind and the almost tech death of necroticism and going and embracing traditional rock and death metal on that 1993 album Heartwork, and they do something similar in this period, don't they? If you were to show that to somebody now, you'd think, oh, this is sludge metal. You wouldn't know that there were any death metal origins. Left Hand Path is a groundbreaking album, isn't it? That's so influential. The irony is, if you read the CD booklet for Left Hand Path, Entombed were friends with Nirvana and some of those bands on Sub Pop because their origins before death metal, I think at least two of them were in a hardcore band. So they'd always kept an eye on that. And it's important mainly because Earache Records at the time gets this distribution deal with Sony, certainly in the United States. So there's a big push to get these bands and to try and, shift as many units as possible on the back of the success of grunge. And you can tell in the aesthetics of that video, that could be on, was it called Alternative Nation? Do you remember that show? 120 minutes. You can tell that it's aimed at people who would listen to Sonic Youth, Melvins, obviously Nirvana, and the bands that were shifting millions or tens of millions in the case of Nirvana. I think they were quite successful. They weren't criticized that much at the time because they really pioneered that death and roll sound, didn't they? Death metal and rock and roll. That song in isolation, I'd be very positive about if it came out now. I quite like the vocals on that. He's really gone for that hardcore style, hasn't he? And you can see the hardcore roots in this band. Good groove to it. It's good to see a band that took a huge risk and they didn't really get any blowback for it. And you could argue they're an influence on sludge metal, just as they're a big influence on death metal. They are, like you said, Crowbar. You put that next to Crowbar, it's around the same time. It sounds like a genre that's starting to emerge, isn't it? Which we now know as sludge metal. So kudos to them for taking big risks. I don't think it backfired. Although I do believe, I think they did a 1998 album that everyone hated. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, this is a band that are more influential than we think, not just in death metal, but in other areas as well.
I was just looking at what CD this came off. So it wasn't off of a magazine CD. This was off of the Earplugged CD that came off with Earache. So Earache used to do these sampler CDs, didn't they? Where they used to release single tracks. I was just looking at what bands were on it. So they had 2 tracks by an Entombed, Cathedral, Napalm Death, Godflash, Bolt Thrower, Carcass, Brutal Truth, and there's about 2 songs from each of the bands on that. That's 14 tracks on this Earplugged album. I think cost me, it was like $5.99 at the time. And that's a hell of an album.
Look in hindsight now, every one of those bands you mentioned either created a new genre or added to it and are so influential, including Brutal Truth. I know they weren't obviously the first grindcore band, but they're still around now. Sorry, they're not around now, but
I mean, it's the tracks that are on there. Like Napalm Death had Plague Rages and Stain of Mind on there, and I mean there were some great tracks on this particular EP. I can't even remember. It's just been put away. I might have to dig that out a bit later today.
I think the other thing here is that because there's this major label involvement, they'd identified Entombed over Napalm Death, to give more budget to them. We can get them stateside and touring, and they have this like grunge element to them as well. So they were probably under a lot of commercial pressure at the time. I don't know how much of an influence that had, because they already had elements of that in the sound anyway. But it was an experiment that paid off, as far as I'm concerned.
Cool. Well, there we go. That was Entombed, End of Wolverine Blues. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the video sometime very soon. Take care.